Alright, I guess it's officially that time of the year. That time where the Sabres just start trading off everybody. Because why ever be buyers at the deadline when you can just be sellers all the time, right? Hey everyone, my name is Melody. Thank you for clicking on this video. So I know you haven't really heard from me in a while, and you know, it's solely because the Sabres are currently on a 16-game losing streak, and I'm just, you know, kind of curled up in a corner crying about it. But after a very long and very painful 32 games of the season, the Sabres finally make a move. So the Sabres trade Eric Staal to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for a 3rd and a 5th round pick, which, in all honesty, like, that's pretty decent return, I guess. The Sabres are retaining half of his salary, so, you know, his salary was $3.25 million, so they'll end up retaining 1.6, which I think, you know, obviously they'd have to do because Montreal was kind of uptight to the cap a little bit. But all in all, like, I was thinking Eric Staal's trade value was probably around like a 3rd or a 4th, so to be able to get like a 3rd and a 5th, I mean, that's a pretty decent return, I think, for him. So the Sabres trade Eric Staal, and, you know, that was obviously inevitable. That was something that was definitely going to happen with 1 year left on his contract, and him being 36 years old. Obviously, they were going to trade him to a team looking to kind of bolster up for the playoffs, which is obviously not us. If you guys will remember when I talked about it in my first video when the Sabres originally traded for Eric Staal, I said specifically that I did not like Eric Staal because he was on the Carolina Hurricanes when the Hurricanes beat us in 2006 and went on to win the Stanley Cup. And there was a bit of like a Sabres-Hurricanes rivalry, so I really didn't like Eric Staal. And now watching him for 32 games, I still don't like Eric Staal. Maybe I just like him more now that he was a Sabre. So obviously, this 2021 season has been just such a disaster for the Buffalo Sabres. Like, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong and probably gone worse than it should have. Like, everything has just been brutal for the Buffalo Sabres. So it is so hard to kind of judge this season. Obviously, this has been a weird season from the get-go. And then the Sabres having to deal with other teams' COVID issues, and then they've had a ton of injuries. All this stuff, so it's hard to really judge this season, but I will say, like, in terms of Eric Staal, I was not happy with Eric Staal on the Sabres. Like, I'm just gonna be totally real. Now, Eric Staal was in probably a pretty tough situation. You know, earlier in the year, he was traded from Minnesota. Like, you could tell he didn't want to leave Minnesota. He has a life and a family in Minnesota. Clearly, he didn't want to go, but then he gets traded to Buffalo. You know, he was definitely in a tough situation. Because he's in Buffalo, he's living in a hotel, his family's back home in Minnesota. It's probably really tough mentally to just be here and be on a losing team with your family not anywhere near you. So I get that, but at the same time, I will say I was very disappointed in Eric Staal this year. He ends the season 32 games, 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points. To me, like, obviously he's getting up there in age. He just looked slow to me. He didn't always look like he was trying his hardest. Like, I think you could definitely tell he didn't want to be here. He kind of gave off that vibe to me. You know, obviously everyone on the team has been bad this year, but I don't think Eric Staal has really helped that much. He was brought in to kind of, like, we've always had issues since trading away Ryan O'Reilly with finding that ideal second-line center. Like, shocker how that happens. You trade away probably the perfect second-line center and then for nothing. and then you struggle finding one. But so we brought him in kind of to be that second line center, and I think I didn't set my expectations too high with him, but I definitely set my expectations a lot higher than what he ended up achieving as a Sabre. Like, maybe at 36 years old, he's just not capable of being a second line center anymore, and maybe we shouldn't have expected that of him. And I think, you know, going into a new team, when they were talking about trading him, I thought he would probably be a great 3rd line center for a playoff team, or at least a solid veteran presence, right? A Stanley Cup winner. But I mean, it just did not work in Buffalo. Like, I just thought he was sloppy. You know, at times he appeared like maybe he wasn't trying his hardest, appeared a little like soft on the puck, a little lazy. And you know, it's not like we really gave up much of anything for him. Obviously, we traded Marcus Johansson for him, and you know, it's not like Marcus was really doing that good for us either. So it's not like it was a bad trade. It was a good idea, I think, to try to bring in more of a veteran presence to the Sabres, because I think, you know, and Jack Eichel even said that himself, I think that's something that the Sabres were sorely missing throughout, you know, with Jack growing up and spending all his years in the NHL. They really didn't have those veterans. They had a lot of young guys. but never really those veterans to kind of show the younger guys what they have to do, how to be successful in the NHL. So it wasn't a bad trade, it wasn't a bad idea, but it clearly just did not work out, and it was pretty disappointing. But I mean, at the same time, you know, everyone's underachieving. Like no one's living up to, you know, the expectation that was set for them. Seriously, like who is? Like who? I mean, maybe you could say Linus Ullmark had a good year before he got injured. He was doing fine, but I mean, other than that, like who's? I just think every single player on this team is underachieving, and so, I mean, you can't really be mad at one player when I guess everyone's doing it and everyone's sucking. So I guess this is kind of the beginning for the Sabres. You knew eventually one of these dominoes was going to fall, and I think there's going to be a lot more coming with the Sabres and their yearly trade deadline fire sale. I'm so sick of them being sellers every single deadline, but what can you do? They're the laughingstock of the league, so nothing you can do about it except watch it happen. But I do think there is a lot more to come. I think Taylor Hall is probably next. You know, Taylor Hall made some very interesting comments. John Vogel from The Athletic last night asked him after the Sabres' 16th consecutive loss, asked him if, you know, if Kevin Adams came to him with a move, would that be something that he'd be interested in? And he just said, yeah, for sure. And that was it. Like, they can't even be subtle anymore. They can't even be, like, boring hockey players. They're just like, yeah, no, please, get me out of here immediately. When is this happening? When can I start booking my plane ticket? Like, so I'm sure he's on the way out next, and he's another one who's just been a huge disappointment. You know, he was kind of the only source of excitement for the Sabres coming into the season. We really expected a lot from him, and 2 goals. So I'm sure he's on the move. You guys probably like Brandon Montour. If someone wants him, he might be traded. I'm sure there's a lot more moves to be made for the Sabres. I mean, they were able to trade Jonas Johansson to Colorado, which I'm sure Colorado after 1 game is regretting. I think it'll be tough for the Sabres to make moves. I think, who said it? I think Darren Dreger or someone, maybe Elliot Friedman, someone from TSN said something along the lines of like, yeah, it's really hard when these guys aren't competing, so like no one wants them. So if they want, like, how could that, if they want to get traded so bad, they might want to try a little bit harder so teams actually want them and teams actually want to make trades for them. Like, could you imagine being a GM and looking at the Sabres and be like, ugh, no, I don't want any of you. You all suck. My AHL team could beat you guys. So in the end, like, I think it's a pretty good deal for Montreal. You know, from the looks of it, looks like they had some picks to give away. They had a ton of picks for some reason in 2021. So it's not like they're really losing much there. And then getting Eric Staal, I think he's going to fit in nicely with that group to really help them, you know, make their push. He's a solid veteran. Like, I don't think you can argue that. I think, you know, he brings that solid veteran presence. And I think if utilized not in a second line center role, but in like a bottom 6 kind of role like that, I'm sure he'll fit in pretty well with that. And I think Montreal is going to end up liking him a lot more than Sabres fans have. So I think it's a good move for them. Good move for us too. And I think those picks can give you some flexibility, you know, too, if you want to, you know, move around in the draft, or if you want to, you know, try to get some players from teams cap-strapped in the offseason, you know, so we'll see. Or if you actually want to draft well for once, right? So yeah, like I said, I mean, this is probably going to be like the first of maybe a few moves kind of like this, like trading off these, you know, 1-year UFAs for picks or maybe prospects or something like that. So nice to finally kind of get that ball rolling. The 32 games of Eric Staal were a massive failure for the Sabres. And yeah, I still don't like him. Still, I feel like I dislike him more since he was a Sabre. Like, I thought that maybe it would finally make me like him, but I think I dislike him more because he played so poorly as a Sabre. So either way, you know, it's nice to be able to talk about the Sabres doing something. But anyway, let me know how you feel about this trade. You can let me know, as always, in the comments. You could have a nice little discussion. I love reading that kind of stuff. Also, let me know how long you think the Sabres losing streak lasts. I think it'll be interesting the more they trade off these players and roster spots open up. I feel like maybe you're going to start to see some guys who, you know, are really going to start pushing, who want NHL jobs and, you know, are going to come into the lineup, you know, hungry for NHL action, which, you know, might be different from what the current Sabres are giving. So you might see guys trying a little bit harder. Or maybe not. Or maybe they'll just lose every single game from here on out, which is very likely. But yeah, let me know how long you think the Sabres losing streak's going to last for. And let me know who you think's next. Taylor Hall, Brandon Montour, everyone. I don't know. Let me know. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you soon. Go Bills. Screw the Sabres. Bye, guys.